Life isn't fair. It never was, and it never will be. The world doesn't care about your excuses, your struggles, or your tears. It will keep moving, with or without you. You can scream about injustice, you can wait for someone to save you, or you can wake up and realize no one is coming. No one owes you anything. Not the government, not society, not your friends, not even your family. Tough times are not a curse. They are your training ground. Every hardship, every betrayal, every moment of doubt is a lesson, if you have the courage to see it that way. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Because weakness isn't in your circumstances, it's in your response. You have two choices: break or build, drown in self-pity, or rise like a warrior. Your life, your responsibility. The easy road is crowded with people waiting for handouts, waiting for sympathy, waiting for something to change. The hard road? That's where the winners are forged. That's where the strong are made. So when life punches you in the face, stand up. When you feel like giving up, take one more step. When the world says you can't, prove it wrong. Remember this when times get tough. You are stronger than you think. Stop waiting. Stop complaining. Stop making excuses. Pain is temporary, but quitting makes it permanent. If you're ready to take control, to own your struggles and to turn pain into power, then hit that subscribe button. No more excuses, no more waiting. It's time to rise. Number 1, you are not entitled to an easy life. Let me tell you something most people don't want to hear. You are not entitled to an easy life. And guess what? That's probably the best news you've never been told. Because once you realize that life doesn't owe you a smooth path, you stop waiting for things to get better and start making them better. But here's where it gets controversial. Most people today, especially in this age of instant gratification, think they deserve comfort without struggle, success without effort, and happiness without pain. It's as if we've forgotten that life has never been and will never be easy for anyone. I'll share a personal experience. There was a time when I was going through an incredibly rough patch. Financially, emotionally, everything was falling apart. I was putting in the hours, doing the work, and yet nothing seemed to be paying off. And I got angry. I started questioning why I was dealing with so much hardship when others seemed to be coasting by, effortlessly achieving what I was grinding for. It was frustrating. I kept thinking, I've done everything right. Why is this happening to me? That's when the brutal realization hit me. Life doesn't operate on the rules of fairness. The world doesn't hand out rewards based on effort alone. It's not enough to do the work and hope that the universe will balance things out in your favor. Success, growth, and fulfillment don't come easy, nor should they. They come to those who are relentless, those who push even when it feels unfair, and those who don't crumble when things don't go their way. Here's where it gets even more uncomfortable. Thinking you deserve an easy life is what keeps you weak. I've seen it happen over and over again. People who expect comfort to be handed to them become the first to collapse when things get tough. They're the ones who blame the world, point fingers, and play the victim card when life throws a curveball. But here's the kicker. Life throws curveballs at everyone. No one, and I mean no one, has it easy all the time. The successful people you see, the ones you might envy, have been knocked down countless times. But you don't see those moments. You only see the victories. What you don't see is the sweat, the sacrifice, and the sleepless nights it took to get there. The truth is, the universe doesn't owe you anything, and neither does anyone else. Not your parents, not your friends, not your boss. No one is responsible for making your life easy. And if you go through life expecting people to fix your problems or hand you opportunities, you'll be disappointed every single time. You've got to work for it, bleed for it, and earn it. And sometimes, even after all that, life will still slap you in the face. And that's okay. Here's the deep message. The sooner you stop expecting life to be easy, the sooner you'll stop feeling like a victim. You'll shift from asking, "Why is this happening to me?" to "How can I turn this to my advantage?" That's the difference between people who succeed and people who stay stuck. One group accepts that hardship is part of the process. The other resents it and waits for someone else to solve their problems. Number 2, tough times don't last, but you do. When you're in the middle of a storm, it feels like it's never going to end, right? It's like the whole world has conspired against you, and every day you're just trying to survive the chaos. Whether it's financial struggles, emotional turmoil, or personal setbacks, tough times can feel suffocating, like they're going to last forever. But here's the truth. Tough times don't last. You do. Now, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. In the moment when life hits you hard, everything feels permanent. The pain, the uncertainty, the frustration, it all seems endless. I've been there, more than once. I remember going through a period where it seemed like nothing was going right. Every plan I had fell apart. Every effort I made seemed pointless. And I was stuck in this loop of frustration. It was like a dark cloud followed me everywhere I went. And I started to think, is this my life now? Is this just how things are going to be from now on? But here's the catch. Tough times are temporary. I know it sounds like a cliche, but cliches exist for a reason. They're often brutally true. No storm, no matter how fierce, lasts forever. The problem is, when we're in it, we let it consume us. We let the temporary pain fool us into thinking it's permanent. But look back on your life. Haven't you already survived 100% of your worst days? Haven't you already made it through moments that, at the time, seemed like they would break you? And yet, here you are. You're still standing. You're stronger because of it, whether you realize it or not. The controversial part? Most people don't want to hear that they're the ones who make tough times last longer than they need to. That's right, I said it. We extend our own suffering by focusing too much on how unfair or painful things are, instead of focusing on the fact that everything is temporary. The more you obsess over how bad things are, the more power you give those tough times to control you. I once worked with someone who seemed to live in a constant state of crisis. Every small problem became a catastrophe. It didn't matter what was going on. They acted like the world was ending. And sure, they had their fair share of problems, like we all do, but it was their attitude that made every tough time feel like it was going to last forever. They couldn't see that their storms were temporary, and so they drowned in them. What you need to understand is that tough times are inevitable. You will face them over and over in life. But what's also inevitable is that those tough times will pass. They always do. What matters is how you endure them. The Stoics believe that the only thing you can control is your own response to life's challenges. And when you really internalize that, you begin to see tough times differently. They don't define you, they refine you. The deep message here is this: no matter how dark it gets, you outlast the storm. Every tough situation, every heartache, every setback is temporary. It's like a test from life asking, how bad do you want to get through this? How much are you willing to endure? And each time you answer with perseverance, you build a little more resilience. The storm will pass, but the strength you gain from it, that stays with you forever. This isn't about ignoring your pain or pretending that tough times don't hurt. They do. But the key is to recognize that pain is fleeting, while your ability to endure is lasting. The human spirit is designed to survive. You're built for this, even if you don't feel like it in the moment. Tough times don't last because they can't. Life moves on. Change is constant. But what doesn't change is your potential to adapt, to grow, to come out the other side stronger. So next time life throws a storm your way, remember, the storm is temporary, it will pass. You, however, are built to endure, and you will be stronger because of it. Don't let the temporary clouds fool you into thinking they'll block the sun forever. You've been through worse before, and you'll get through this too. Tough times don't last, but you do. Number 3, your mind is your greatest ally. If there's one thing you can always count on, it's your mind. And here's the hard truth. Most people don't realize this. They treat their mind as an enemy, letting their thoughts spiral into fear, doubt, and negativity when times get tough. But the reality is, your mind is the most powerful tool you have. And if you train it, it becomes your greatest ally. Let me get personal for a second. I used to struggle with overwhelming anxiety when things didn't go my way. The moment a situation turned bad, my mind would race with worst-case scenarios. I'd lose sleep, get irritable, and make impulsive decisions because I couldn't handle the uncertainty. It wasn't the situation itself that was defeating me. It was my own mind. My thoughts were sabotaging me, creating mountains out of molehills, making me feel helpless when, in fact, I had more control than I realized. Here's the controversial bit. You control your thoughts, not the other way around. And if you don't take control of your mind, it will control you. Your mind is either going to be the thing that propels you forward or the anchor that drags you down. Most people let their minds run wild, allowing their thoughts to dominate them instead of stepping in and taking charge. But this is where you can turn the tables. You've got to understand that your mind is like a muscle. It can be trained. The Stoics knew this better than anyone. Marcus Aurelius, one of the greatest Stoic philosophers, constantly reminded himself that it's not what happens to us that matters, but how we respond to it. Your mind shapes your reality. And when you harness that power, no external challenge can break you. The problem? Most people let their minds run in circles, filling their heads with self-doubt, fear, and negativity. They become prisoners of their own thoughts, slaves to their emotions instead of mastering them. When you hit a tough spot, your mind can be your best friend or your worst enemy. Think about it. When things go south, what's the first thing that happens? Your mind floods you with what-ifs. What if this situation gets worse? What if I fail? What if I can't handle this? It's a vicious cycle. And the more you let those thoughts take root, the more paralyzed you become. But here's the key. That's all happening in your head. The situation may be tough, sure, but your thoughts, they're the real battlefield. The deep message here is this. When you train your mind, you can handle anything life throws at you. The storms will come, and life will test you. Make no mistake about that. But the difference between those who rise above and those who collapse under pressure is their mental discipline. It's about what's happening up here. Point to your head, not out there. There's a practice I started that changed everything for me. Whenever I felt my mind spiraling into anxiety or fear, I'd stop and ask myself, what can I control right now? It's a simple question, but it shifts your focus instantly. Instead of obsessing over everything that could go wrong, you anchor yourself in what you can do. And that right there is the power of your mind as an ally. It takes you from victim to victor. It reminds you that even when the world feels like it's falling apart, you have the ability to shape your response. I remember a time when I was faced with a massive career setback. I had poured months into a project only to watch it fail spectacularly. My first reaction was panic. My mind went into overdrive, telling me I wasn't good enough, that I had wasted my time, that I'd never recover from this. But then I caught myself. I took a step back and realized that all of that negativity was coming from me. The situation itself wasn't the problem. It was my mind's interpretation of it. I shifted my thinking, asking myself, what can I learn from this? How can I use this to get better? And just like that, my mind went from being my enemy to my ally. Here's the thing, your mind is with you 24/7. You can't escape it, but you can train it to work for you rather than against you. It's like having the most powerful tool at your disposal, but it requires effort and discipline to master. The more you practice controlling your thoughts, the more resilient you become. Instead of letting tough times break you, you can use them as an opportunity to strengthen your mind. So the next time life hits you hard, remember this. Your mind is your greatest ally. It can either make you or break you, and that choice is entirely in your hands. Don't let your thoughts run wild, dragging you into despair. Take control. Train your mind to focus on what you can control, and you'll find that even the toughest challenges become more manageable. The battle is in your head, and when you win that battle, you can win any fight life throws at you. Number 4, life owes you nothing. Here's a hard pill to swallow. Life owes you absolutely nothing, and I mean nothing. Not happiness, not success, not love, not even fairness. This is one of the most brutal and controversial truths you'll ever have to accept. But once you do, your entire perspective on life will change. Let me be blunt. If you think that just because you've worked hard, been kind, or suffered through tough times that life is obligated to reward you, then you're in for a rude awakening. Life doesn't hand out rewards for effort. It's indifferent, neutral, and completely unconcerned with your personal sense of justice. I know it sounds harsh, but stick with me. We live in a culture where entitlement is rampant. People think they deserve things just because they exist. I've been through so much. Surely life will throw me a bone. Or, I've put in the work. I deserve success now. But life doesn't work that way. Just because you've struggled doesn't mean you're guaranteed success or happiness. In fact, struggle is the norm, not the exception. Let me share a personal experience. There was a point in my life when I thought I had earned a break. I had gone through a series of personal challenges, emotional, financial, you name it. I convinced myself that I had reached my quota of suffering. I thought, okay, universe, I've done my time. Now it's my turn for something good. But instead of a break, life hit me with even more challenges, one setback after another. And I was furious. I kept thinking, this isn't fair. I deserve better. But that's where I was wrong. I had fallen into the trap of thinking that life owed me something for all my hard work and pain. It was a painful realization when I finally understood that life doesn't work on a system of rewards and punishments. It's not a vending machine where you put in your suffering and out pops a prize. Life doesn't operate on fairness. It just is. Here's the controversial part that no one wants to hear. Thinking life owes you anything keeps you weak. It keeps you in this mindset of entitlement and victimhood. You start waiting for life to give you something instead of going out there and taking it. It's a powerless way to live because you're always looking to external circumstances for validation rather than realizing that everything you want or need has to come from within you. No one is going to hand you success, happiness, or love. If you want those things, you have to create them for yourself, regardless of what life throws at you. I know people who are stuck in this mindset, waiting for life to turn around for them. They're waiting for the universe, fate, or destiny to suddenly start favoring them as if they've been handed a bad deal and now it's their turn for the good stuff. But here's the truth. They'll keep waiting and waiting and nothing will change. Life doesn't have favorites. It's not out to get you, but it's also not going to magically start working in your favor just because you think you've earned it. You get what you work for, not what you think you deserve. Here's the deep message. The moment you realize life owes you nothing is the moment you free yourself from disappointment. When you drop this sense of entitlement, you stop feeling like the world is against you when things don't go your way. Instead, you focus on what you can control: your mindset, your actions, your perseverance. You stop blaming external circumstances and start taking responsibility for your own success and happiness. And that's where true power lies. The Stoics were masters at understanding this concept. They knew that life would throw curveballs, that hardship and suffering were part of the human experience. But they didn't waste time complaining about how unfair life was. They focused on their response to it. They didn't expect life to be fair or easy, and that's what made them resilient. They understood that life doesn't owe you anything, but that's precisely what makes it so liberating. Because if life owes you nothing, then you're not sitting around waiting for it to deliver. You're out there making things happen on your own terms. Think about it. When you let go of the belief that life owes you, you stop being disappointed by every setback, every failure, every unfair circumstance. Instead, you see them for what they are: challenges, obstacles to overcome, not personal attacks from the universe. You stop expecting life to go your way, and instead, you adapt to whatever comes your way. And when you adopt this mindset, you become unstoppable. Because no matter what happens, you don't crumble. You don't sit there waiting for someone or something to save you. You rise, you push forward, and you make your own path. So here's the takeaway. Life owes you nothing. But that's not a reason to feel defeated. It's a call to arms. It's a reminder that everything you want in this world, you have to go out and create for yourself. No one's coming to rescue you. No one's going to hand you success or happiness on a silver platter. And that's okay, because you don't need anyone to. You have everything you need within you to carve out the life you want. No handouts required. Once you let go of this toxic entitlement, you'll stop wasting energy on frustration and start putting that energy into action. You'll realize that life's indifference is actually your greatest advantage. Because if life owes you nothing, then you're free to create your own rules, make your own choices, and design your own path. And that's real power. Number 5, pain is inevitable. Put suffering as optional. Let's get something straight. Pain is a fact of life. No one escapes it. It's going to hit you whether you like it or not, physically, emotionally, mentally. That's just how life works. But here's the kicker, the controversial truth that most people don't understand. While pain is inevitable, suffering is completely optional. Let me explain. Pain is something we all experience, whether it's the loss of a loved one, a betrayal from someone we trusted, or even just the grind of daily life wearing us down. You can't avoid pain. You can't sidestep heartache, failure, or disappointment. It's part of being human. And yet, people spend so much time and energy trying to avoid pain, thinking that if they do everything right, they can live pain-free. But that's a lie. No matter what you do, life is going to hit you with unexpected hardships, losses, and challenges. Pain is inevitable. But here's the deeper message. While pain is unavoidable, suffering is something you choose. It's your response to that pain that makes all the difference. You can't control what happens to you, but you can absolutely control how you react to it. This is where most people get stuck. They confuse pain with suffering, but they're not the same. Pain is a signal, a natural response to something unpleasant. Suffering, on the other hand, is the emotional narrative we build around that pain. Let me give you an example from my own life. A few years ago, I went through a serious personal loss. The pain was crushing, like a physical weight on my chest. But the suffering, that came from my own mind. I spent months replaying the event in my head, asking, why me? Why did this happen? What could I have done differently? I allowed that pain to become a constant loop of self-pity and regret. The pain was real, but the suffering was entirely my own creation. I was prolonging it by refusing to let go of the emotional baggage tied to that event. The Stoics understood this distinction and better than anyone. They didn't deny that pain exists. Of course it does. But they believe that suffering is a choice. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and philosopher, faced unthinkable hardships, plagues, wars, betrayals. And yet he didn't allow himself to wallow in suffering. He wrote in his meditations, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." In other words, while you can't stop pain from entering your life, you can stop yourself from letting it consume you. You can choose not to suffer. And here's the controversial part. Many people want to suffer. They don't realize it, but they cling to their suffering because it gives them a sense of identity, a reason to be angry, or a justification for why their life isn't where they want it to be. They hold on to their suffering like a badge of honor. Look at me. Look how much I've been through. But that's the easy way out. It's far harder and far more rewarding to confront your pain, accept it, and then choose to move forward without letting it define you. Think about the last time you faced something really painful. How long did you stay stuck in the why me mindset? How much time did you waste replaying the same painful thoughts over and over again, allowing them to dominate your mind and your life? That's suffering. And that suffering is something you can avoid, even in the worst of situations. I remember reading about Viktor Frankl, a Holocaust survivor who spent years in Nazi concentration camps. He experienced unimaginable physical and emotional pain, yet he found a way to avoid suffering. In his book, Man's Search for Meaning, he wrote, "Everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way." Here was a man who endured more pain than most of us will ever know. Yet he chose not to let that pain define him. He understood that while pain is an inevitable part of the human condition, suffering is a choice we make in how we process and interpret that pain. The deep message here is this: you can't avoid pain, but you have the power to stop suffering in its tracks. This realization changes everything because it puts you in control. When you accept that pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional, you free yourself from the victim mentality. You stop thinking life is unfair or that the universe is out to get you. Instead, you focus on what you can control: your response, your mindset, your actions. I know this sounds easier said than done. In the heat of the moment, when life knocks you down, it's tempting to sink into suffering, to let that pain consume you. But that's where the real growth happens. When you can feel the pain and yet choose not to suffer, you become unbreakable. You realize that no matter what happens to you, you are in control of how you experience it. Number 6. The world won't wait for you to heal. Here's a truth that most people don't want to hear. The world doesn't stop for your healing process. The harsh reality is that no matter what you're going through, life goes on without you. Your struggles, your pain, your heartbreak, they don't put the world on pause. It's brutal, it's unfair, but it's the truth. While you're picking up the pieces of your life, the world keeps spinning, time keeps ticking, and people keep moving forward. And you know what? They won't slow down to accommodate your wounds. It sounds harsh, right? Almost heartless. But this is the controversial reality we all have to face. We're conditioned to believe that when we're hurting, when we're going through a tough time, the world should stop or at least give us some room to breathe. But life doesn't work that way. It's indifferent to your pain. The sun rises, the bills pile up, deadlines loom, and people continue living their lives. It's not that the world doesn't care, it's that the world doesn't wait. Let me tell you a personal story. I once went through a rough breakup that left me feeling completely shattered. I wanted to retreat from everything, wallow in my pain, and take a break from life. But the responsibilities didn't stop. I still had work deadlines to meet, bills to pay, and people relying on me. For a while, I tried to hide from it all, expecting that somehow life would pause and give me time to heal. But guess what? It didn't. I fell behind, and the more I delayed, the more things piled up. No one was going to come in and say, "Hey, don't worry about it. Take as long as you need." I was forced to face reality. The world wasn't going to slow down for me. I had to get back on track, broken heart and all. That's when I realized something crucial. Healing is important, yes, but you can't let your healing become an excuse to stop moving forward. You have to find a way to keep going, even when you're not okay. Waiting until you're fully healed or until you feel better before you start living again will only leave you stuck. You might never get back in the game. The world doesn't stop, and neither should you. This is where many people go wrong. They believe they need to feel 100% before they can get back to life. They think that if they wait long enough, if they just retreat into their cocoon for a while, the world will be waiting for them when they're ready. But life doesn't wait. Opportunities will pass, people will move on, and you'll find yourself left behind, wondering why everything seems so out of reach. Here's the deep message. You have to learn to heal while you keep moving. You don't get the luxury of pressing pause on life until you feel whole again. And that's okay. Healing doesn't have to be this solitary, all-consuming process. You can rebuild yourself while still moving forward, still taking steps, even if they're small ones. The idea that you need to stop everything until you're better is a trap that keeps you stuck in your pain longer than necessary. The Stoics understood this well. They didn't believe in wallowing in suffering or waiting for the perfect moment to feel better. They believed in action, in moving forward despite the pain. Marcus Aurelius himself said, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." In other words, your pain, your struggles, they are the path forward. You don't heal by standing still. You heal by pushing through, by continuing to live, even when it hurts. Think about the most resilient people you know, the ones who've been through hell and back, but still manage to keep going. They don't stop for long. They've mastered the art of healing while moving forward. They understand that life isn't going to give them extra time to nurse their wounds. They have to figure out how to handle their pain and still show up for life. And that's exactly what makes them strong. It's a controversial thought, but it's true. Waiting for the world to slow down so you can heal is a waste of time. The world won't wait, and it's not supposed to. The responsibility to keep going falls on you. You might not feel ready, and that's okay. You don't have to be fully healed to take the next step. Healing happens in motion, not in stasis. And here's the hard truth. No one is going to hand you a break. The universe isn't going to part the clouds and say, "All right, we'll give you a pass this time." Life isn't built that way. It keeps going, and you have to figure out how to keep going with it. That's where real strength comes from. Not in avoiding pain, but in learning how to carry it with you while you continue on your journey. If you wait until you're completely healed, until everything feels perfect again, you'll be waiting forever. The world will pass you by, and you'll be stuck in the same place, wondering why life didn't pause for your pain. The most powerful thing you can do is recognize that healing is a part of life, not a break from it. So the next time life pushes you to the edge, remember, it's not about avoiding the storm. It's about learning how to stand strong in the middle of it. Pain will come, but suffering is a choice, and resilience is the reward. Don't wait for life to get easier. Get tougher, wiser, and more unshakable. You've got everything you need within you to not just survive, but thrive. Remember, tough times don't last, but you do. Keep moving forward and let nothing break you. Now go take on the world, because life owes you nothing, but you owe it to yourself to keep rising.